She ate alone at a diner, not realizing the billionaire at the next booth would soon fall for her. The rain came down in sheets, tapping rhythmically against the windows of the small roadside diner just outside of Chicago. Inside, the air was warm, the lighting soft, and the smell of fresh coffee and sizzling bacon filled the space with comfort. She sat in the corner booth, alone. Emily Parker stirred the creamer into her coffee, watching the swirl of white cloud through the dark liquid. She wasn't expecting to be here tonight, but life had its way of changing plans, again. Her car had broken down on I-94, and after the tow truck took it to the nearest shop, she walked half a mile in the rain to this humble diner with nothing but her tote bag, a dead phone, and a heavy heart. She looked around at the other tables, couples chatting, truckers laughing, a family sharing fries. And then her eyes landed, briefly, on the man in the booth beside her. Dressed in a black cashmere coat, his hair slightly damp, he didn't quite fit in. He had the air of someone who didn't belong in places like this, but chose to be there anyway. He looked up. Their eyes met, only for a second. She offered a soft, polite smile, the kind strangers exchange when they're both somewhere they hadn't planned to be. He returned it with a nod before looking back at the untouched coffee in front of him. What Emily didn't know was that the man sitting across the aisle wasn't just another customer. His name was Nathan Carrington. Tech magnate. Media-shy billionaire. Owner of Carrington Innovations. But tonight, he was simply a man who had just buried his mother and wanted to remember the comfort of simpler times, of diners she used to take him to, long before he was anything the world would care about. What neither of them knew was that tonight, everything would begin to change. Nathan noticed her again when she quietly asked the waitress for a grilled cheese and tomato soup, if it's not too much trouble. She smiled through the weariness, and her voice held a trace of warmth, but Nathan could see the exhaustion beneath it. She didn't look like someone who wanted to be noticed, yet something about her made it impossible not to. Minutes passed. The diner buzzed around them. Nathan finally picked up his fork, forcing himself to eat. But then, her phone slipped from her bag and clattered to the ground. Dead screen. Cracked corner. Emily sighed and picked it up, visibly trying not to fall apart. "Bad day?" he asked gently, surprising himself. She looked up, startled at first, but something in his tone, low, kind, made her soften. "Something like that," she replied. "Car broke down. Missed my job interview. Phone's dead. My mom's in the hospital, and I'm 300 miles from home." Nathan blinked. He hadn't expected that kind of answer. Most people would have shrugged it off or sugar-coated it. But she didn't. She didn't pretend. "I'm sorry," he said after a moment. "That's a lot." She laughed under her breath. "Yeah. It is." There was a pause. She looked at him more closely this time, his tailored coat, his expensive watch. "You don't look like you belong here," she said, half smiling. "Neither do you." Emily chuckled, despite herself. And with that, a strange sort of companionship formed between them. Over the next hour, they talked. Not about money. Or fame. Or technology. But about life. About parents. About broken dreams. About how sometimes you give everything you have, and life still hands you silence. Nathan told her about his mother. About how she raised him on tips and shifts and how she made birthdays feel special even when they could only afford dollar store cake. Emily told him about how she worked 2 jobs to pay for nursing school, only to put it on hold when her mom got sick. They laughed. They cried. They shared fries. When the waitress came to refill their drinks, she smiled at the sight of the 2 strangers talking like old friends. By the time the check came, Nathan had already paid it quietly. Emily protested. "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to," he said simply. "Call it a small kindness on a night that's already been too hard." She paused. "Thank you. For dinner. And, for talking. I didn't realize how much I needed it. He smiled. Me either. That night, he drove her to a nearby motel and paid for her room, quietly, again. He didn't offer to stay. He didn't suggest anything inappropriate. Just handed her the room key and a brand new charger for her dead phone. "Good night, Emily," he said. "I hope things start getting better." She nodded, clutching the key in her hand. "Good night, what's your name?" He hesitated, then smiled. "Nathan." "Just Nathan." Days passed. Emily went back home after her car was fixed. Her mom's condition improved. She got a call, someone had cancelled their nursing school application, and she could re-enroll. And then, one afternoon, a letter arrived in her mailbox. No return address. Just a single sheet of paper. "You said life doesn't always give back what you give. Maybe sometimes it does. Stay brave. N." Inside was a check. $25,000. Her hands trembled. She never heard from him again. Until 5 months later. She was working at a hospital in Chicago now, on night shift in the ER, when the city buzzed with the news. Carrington Innovations CEO breaks silence, donates $10 million to free clinics across the country. Her heart stopped. The photo in the article. The face. Nathan. Her Nathan. She read every word, devouring the interview. He talked about his mother, about growing up poor, about the waitress who taught him compassion. And then, he mentioned a woman. "A stranger in a diner who reminded me that kindness isn't lost. That people still care. She'll never know, but she changed something in me that night." Emily sat in stunned silence. He had remembered her. Weeks passed before she ever saw him again. It was raining. Again. She was walking out of the hospital after a double shift, soaked and exhausted, when a black car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down. And there he was. "Nathan," she gasped. He smiled. "Hey, Emily. Need a ride?" Her breath caught in her throat. She got in. This time, they didn't go to a diner. They went to a quiet rooftop restaurant that overlooked the city skyline. He didn't wear the billionaire mask. She didn't wear the weight of her world. They were just Nathan and Emily again. "You found me," she whispered. "I never lost you," he said. "I just needed time to become the kind of man who deserved you." Her eyes welled with tears. She reached across the table and took his hand. And in that moment, they both understood. Sometimes the most life-changing love stories begin not with flowers or fanfare, but with two broken people, sharing fries at a diner, in the middle of a storm. Ending note, narrator's voice. We never know who's watching us when we think we're invisible. One kind word, one honest moment, one shared meal, can change everything. She ate alone that night, unaware that the man next to her was not just a billionaire, but someone who needed her kindness to remember who he truly was. And in choosing compassion instead of complaint, she didn't just change her fate, she transformed his. Forever. Let me know if you'd like. A clickbait YouTube title plus description plus hashtags. 10 image generation prompts from key moments. A script with narration notes for voiceover delivery. Just say the word.